Good morning, everyone. Great to see you online again, and I have prepared a very special live stream today. I'm really excited about the topic because I think it just couldn't be more relevant. Okay, so welcome everyone to the live stream. I'm just checking in with my page that everything is in place and we are live. Great. Here we are. So, topic for today. Today, I want to talk to you about equity and how you can use it to increase your chances of raising capital and getting funding, basically. Yeah, this is a lawyer's perspective. Hi, I am Avocat Olivia Marcu-Iordanescu. I'm an attorney at law with 16 years of post-qualified experience, and I partner with AI software companies to streamline their legal processes so they get funding to grow and scale their business fast and efficient. Equity is the one thing that will increase or decrease your company valuation and consequently impact your funding round. So, how can you increase it? Let's talk about it. It's maybe not essentially a legal topic, more of a finance topic, but actually, in this session today with me, you will discover what legal has to do with all of this, how you can impact it with your documentation, and what are some steps you can take today. So today I want to talk to you first about what is equity from a legal perspective. Second, what are 3 legal instruments that you can use to increase your equity and valuation? Yeah, consequently. And third, what is the value of valuation and how you can get that to impact positively your investor's perspective on your company, on your software company. So first things first, what is equity? If you look this up online and you have a finance team and you've been through it over and over again, you know already that equity represents the value that would be returned to your company, to your shareholders, actually, if all of the assets were liquidated and all of the company's debts were paid off. So put it another way, we can also think of equity as a degree of residual ownership in a firm or asset after deducting all debts associated with that asset. So essentially, you will calculate equity as a company's total assets minus its total liabilities. And this is relevant in several key financial indicators, such as the return on equity. But if you remember, we've looked at this in previous live sessions, and you can look them up by scrolling down on my platform. And we looked into what assets and liabilities from a legal standpoint mean and what are the key takeaways for you from that. Now, equity represents the shareholder's stake in the company, and it's identified on the company's balance sheet. And when an investment is publicly traded, the market value of equity will be given by that company's share price and its market capitalization. But for private entities that are not publicly traded, the market mechanism doesn't apply, okay, doesn't exist. So you need to look at other valuation forms in order to estimate the value of your company. And it's also what investors will look at when deciding what is the company's value today versus what could its value become in the future. So we could say that this is more like a creative process. And you're going to have to go in there in the room with your investors ready and prepared to talk about that. So the question to ask yourself is, how do you evaluate your company today? And equity is a very important factor in that. Now, private equity generally refers to such an evaluation of companies that are not publicly traded. There is no market mechanism available. Well, not in that sense of a publicly listed, of a traded market where you can trade your company's stock. The accounting equation still applies. Okay, so assets minus liabilities. And you will basically, based on this calculation, come to an estimate of the book value. And then you can go to your investors and sell shares directly in private placements. And these private equity investors can be pension funds, university grants, insurance companies, individuals, angel investors. There's a whole range of investors that are available for you. Now, let's have a look at what are the 3 legal instruments to increase your equity. Number 1 is brand equity. And this is, in my opinion, the most important one. Now, when determining an asset's equity, particularly for larger corporations, it is important to note these assets may include both tangible assets and intangible assets. And again, we looked at this in the previous sessions, but I have to stress and come back over this over and over again, and I will be doing this over and over again, because it's so important that you know what your assets are, not just the tangible ones, but also the intangible ones. But more important than that is essential that you know how you can monetize those assets. But let's come back for now to brand equity, okay? So, intangible assets. This is the company's reputation and brand identity. And from a legal standpoint, that will be made up of your trademarks, the trademark under which you trade your product or service, most likely, since you're a software company, the question is, how do you build this brand equity, and how can the legal side of it can help you in this endeavor? So through years of advertising and developing your customer base and sales and all of these actions that you're taking to build your brand identity, the market research, the advertising, the promotional campaigns, all of it is basically meant to increase your company's brand, and it can come to have an inherent value, right? Some call this the brand equity, which measures the brand of a value relative to a generic or a store brand version of your service or product. So, from a legal standpoint, what is the key takeaway for you is that it's really important, first of all, that you register these intangible assets where such registration is available. Yeah, whether it's trademark, patent for certain aspects of your software or AI or solution, designs, make sure you register. The moment you register, they become assets in your company. And in addition to that, what is also important in order to build and grow your brand identity and equity is that you keep records of all brand equity, all contracts with branding agencies, PR, advertising, market research, everything you have done and invested in building your brand. and on your brand side, including your standard contracts with clients. And we have looked last week or 2 weeks ago at the importance of standardizing these contracts, sales information, but having the figures just won't be enough. This is the bottom line, and this is what I want you to take away from this. You will need to have all the legal documentation backing this up, and you will see shortly why. Number two, the second legal instrument that you can use to increase your equity is monetizing your brand. Okay, so you've registered it, you have it on your balance sheet, you have invested in building your brand, and now the question is, how can I exploit it for generating revenue, which of course increases the value of that asset, right? So again, from previous legal live sessions, we've seen that intangible assets in your case as an AI software company can be trademarks, software copyright, designs, patents. If you are not monetizing it, it will be worth its book value, okay? And that is mostly the case, let's say, for trademarks. What does that mean? Book value, in this case, is how much it costs you to register it in your books, to register it with an intellectual property office. What was the actual cost of registration? That will be recorded in your balance sheet as the book value of your asset. Yeah. In the case of the software, it's going to be the cost of developing that software. Another method to monetize it and hence increase its value is going to be by assignment or transfer or sale. So, or you can do joint ventures for different specific objectives, whether it's research and development, research and innovation. They all aim essentially at exploiting the intangible asset and generating revenue and value for the company and ultimately increasing that asset's value. If you have a software as a service revenue model, that will give you your company's value too. So the key takeaway here is, again, to make sure that you have all the documents behind these transactions, or value building transactions, as I like to call them, whether you are entering into such agreements externally with third-party partners, or with entities that form part of the same group of companies. You will need to have agreements signed in place, and even more so for intra-group transactions, you will need to have maybe transfer pricing files in place and set market value remuneration for the exploitation of these assets. And this is a good thing. It will help you, as we see further in this live session. Number 3 is shareholders' equity. Now, the concept of equity has applications beyond just evaluating companies. We can think of equity as a degree of ownership in any asset after deducting all debts associated with that asset. Common variations, okay, on equity: a stock or any security representing ownership, interest in a company, shares, participations. In other words, it is not just what the shareholders hold in the operational or main company or in the holding company above. So, but all participations in any other entity that consolidate and form the overall company or group value. On a company's balance sheet, the amount of funds contributed by the owners or shareholders plus the retained earnings or losses. So one may also call this stockholders' equity or shareholders' equity. Here again, from a legal standpoint, you need to make sure you have all the legal instruments backing up the equity, which in this case can be corporate documentation regarding the participations that are being held downstream, but also holdings upstream, up to the beneficial owners, documenting any special rights in relation to the shares, the options, the warrants, but also loans, shareholder loans, also corporate resolutions, general meetings of shareholders approving financial statements, profit that hasn't been distributed. This would be shown in your general meeting of shareholders resolutions. All of this documentation is extremely important. So, and finally, what I also want you to take away from this session is you will need to get a valuation, a company valuation or a brand valuation. There are several methods to do this. This is required by investors, and they will need to see that an independent third-party evaluator can confirm the equity, the value of the company as you are presenting it through your figures. And here is where all the legal documentation that we just went through and discussed, backing up those figures, comes into play and becomes very relevant, the wording in there, and it will be requested from you in order to support the valuation. So to conclude from today's session, invest in brand equity, make sure you document everything, and get a third-party independent valuation. These are the 3 key takeaways for you today from today's funding session for AI software companies who are looking to raise funding fast and efficient. Thank you.